14 years ago, this very weekend, a young 33-year-old priest from Cleveland, Ohio, boarded a plane at the Cleveland airport to fly the not even an hour flight to LaGuardia, where that young priest was picked up by some fashionista, a man who always dresses so properly, and I was dressed like a 33-year-old, yeah. And when I arrived here, yes, it was me, I spent that weekend meeting and listening and talking with various members of St. Jude's nominating committee as they were seeking out individuals, an individual who might be their next rector. It was a wonderful experience, but I have to be truthful with you. The fact is, in a million years, I never dreamt that I would be a priest in the Diocese of Long Island, and especially in the suburbs. Now, you have to understand, I did go to seminary in Manhattan at the General Theological Seminary, and people came from all over different dioceses. But the one thing that you heard was never accept a call in the Diocese of Long Island. That's the scalped honor truth. It's because the diocese had been in a dysfunctional state for some time, and it was like, well, don't even mess with it. And the second thing, though, was I also always felt a deep call towards inner city ministry. It's what I was certain God was calling me to. But on that weekend, through prayer, through holy listening, through sharing stories, my heart began to warm, and my ears began to open, and my spirit showed that I was willing, if God would call, to come out to St. Jude in the burbs, in a town I thought was called Wantagh. You know, I needed to expect the unexpected. If you look at your life, if you think a long way back for some, Nancy, or not so long back as Kylie, I see you're here today. But when you were a kid, did you ever do one of those projects, what I want to be when I grow up? And mainly, people would write things such as a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a firefighter, you know, a policeman, and an astronaut, you know, the president. But I'm just curious, a show of hands, If you remember doing that or thinking what you want it to be, how many of you are actually doing the thing that you thought when you were a kid you were going to be doing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. 6. That's pretty amazing. And so somewhere along your life, something happened that made you stop and think and listen, and your heart warmed, your ears opened, and you were ready to expect the unexpected and be the person who you are now. Chosen by God to love and serve Him. In the first and second lesson, we hear the story of God saying to Abram, then Abraham, that he was going to be the father of a great, great nation. And that Sarah would be the mother of this great nation. Now, I love how Paul says that he was almost dead as he was 99 years old. Thank God he didn't mention Sarah's age. But there would be no way, logically, and even with the science that they knew back at that time, that somebody, Abraham might be able to perform, and Sarai also, but let's be honest, when Sarah was past the age after menopause, and there would be no way that she would be giving birth to anybody. I mean, that is why in another section you see Sarah laugh when it's told that she is going to be the mother of a great nation. I mean, just imagine Nancy. If just think about it. What if God spoke to you today and said, you are going to have a child? She went like this. Yeah, that would be the most unexpected thing in the world. And you would probably be in the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest woman ever to give birth. No, I'm done now, Nancy. It's been a while. So, gotta get them in when I can, so. But no, seriously though, Abraham and Sarah, although they had hoped that they would have children, they, through trusting in God, were able to be the father and mother of 3 great religions. To be people who we look to as people of faith, as people who prove that God exists. If they weren't ready to accept the unexpected, then we probably wouldn't be here today. The gospel. The disciples, they followed Jesus. They left everything and everyone behind, to follow the man who they knew was the Messiah. And they had no doubt whatsoever that the Messiah would be riding in on a horse with sword in hand, leading the people of Israel to liberate them from the Romans who were occupying. That was their view of the Messiah. They had no other idea what the Anointed One would mean. And so when we hear Jesus saying that the Son of Man must be crucified, die, be buried, and then be risen from the dead, that went against everything the disciples thought about Jesus. That's why Peter takes Jesus aside, and he basically tells him as much. It says he rebukes him. Like, that's not what you are called to do, Jesus. Don't you know? Notice Jesus never got upset with Peter for questioning, for having a different understanding. But he told him that no, that the Messiah, the Son of God, has to go through the cross in order that all of us might no longer fear and we can live in Christ. From that moment on, Peter knew. Peter had to change his worldview. And once Christ was risen and ascended, being filled with the Holy Spirit, he was able to talk to many and lead them to follow Christ, expecting the unexpected. My sisters and my brothers, this is the second Sunday in Lent. So we're not halfway through. So we have a lot more time to do some deep listening and have some deep conversations with God our Father. Remember, the relationship you have with Jesus is a personal relationship. Christ marked you as his own in baptism and knows everything about you, but wants nothing more than for you and me to talk to God, to share our hopes, to share our dreams. But we also need to listen. This relationship isn't a one-way street. As we speak to God, God speaks to us. And if we're open enough, the Holy Spirit will indict us and will show us what exactly God would have us do. And it might be, and it probably will be, something that you never, ever imagined that you would be doing. But because you're open, because you're ready to expect the unexpected, when the Spirit calls, when the signs are so clear, when you're ready and able to say, yes, Lord, here I am, use me. Then, my friends, your lives will be changed forever. Because following Christ means that we will go to the cross with him, that we will spread the good news by words and action, and that we ourselves can be instruments of healing and peace in this world. Abraham and Sarah, they got their wish. It just was unexpected it would happen so late in their lives. Peter's eyes were opened, and his whole view of who the Messiah is needed to be changed in order for him to proclaim the good news. And this now 47-year-old priest, who's been at St. Jude's for 14 years, had to listen very clearly to God and be willing to say yes, even in the midst of fear and uncertainty and wondering what I was getting myself into. But being willing to expect the unexpected. There's not a day that I regret saying yes. And I wouldn't know you without that. And how many people here have met individuals who have become such dear friends, such an integral part of your lives. You probably never expected that either. So my friends, let your heart burn. Let your ears be opened. And this season of Lent, expect the unexpected and be ready when it's time to say yes.